Hello and welcome. I am Ben the Best 5 and I'm coming to you with yet more Kerbal Space Program content. Now, at the very end of my most recent video, I in fact asked you guys, my fans, my subscribers, my supporters, thank you to all of you, just by the way, your support means a lot. Anyway, I left you guys the decision of what my next mission should be, and kind of the overwhelming idea that people tended to give me was to perform the mission that I was offered to get some scientific data from space near Duna. So that is precisely what I'm doing in this mission. As you can see here, I'm in fact using the first ever rocket which I used on this channel, my N-class rocket, and basically what we will be doing is we will be sending a version of the upper stage which has been converted into a standalone satellite on a flyby past Duna, where we can successfully get some data and transmit it back. Now, this rocket you see here is in fact the very minimum that we need to complete the mission. The upper stage has, well, barely enough delta V to get us to Duna, however it has just enough to get there and send some data back, and it also has just enough battery to send back the data in one go. Now I'm going to talk about some of the design choices behind this rocket just real quick. So as you can see, I have 4 of the extendable cheap relay dishes which can fold out. Now I did initially want to use the smaller RA16, the little ones that stick out. However, I couldn't actually put them onto the rocket without them kind of giving me issues due to aerodynamic forces, and there's no 0.6 meter fairing, so I couldn't successfully hide them under a fairing, and the other ones were too big, or too heavy for my probe to be able to carry them up into space. So that is why, for the purpose of this mission, we have in fact opted to use these relay antennas, and I have in fact put 4 of them on there just because that is the amount of antennas we need to be able to hit the lander that we have placed on Duna with its massive relay antenna. So with 4 of those, I can hit that from the very edge of Duna's sphere of influence. I did that just because I knew I was going for a flyby and it might not necessarily be entirely precise. So as a result, I decided to include enough antennas that I could successfully communicate from such a distance. The science I chose to bring was the pressure bath thermometer, just because I would have liked to have brought the mystery goo because it's the cheapest of them available. However, it was actually way too heavy, and this craft I did actually have to do quite a lot of planning, and we get to Duna for a flyby with literally 3 meters per second of delta V remaining. Alright, not much left over, so I had to basically just bring the cheapest one that was light enough that my rocket could carry it on a flyby of Duna. Again, this rocket was initially designed only for sending stuff to the local moons, as in Minmus and the Mun. And here we are performing a recovery of our booster. Now, our booster for this stage, it's actually so small, and it's such a small rocket that the booster never actually leaves the atmosphere, so that can make recovery of this particularly difficult. However, we were able to do it fine because we do have a rather powerful upper stage. It's also very efficient, so it's powerful and efficient just because the rocket's very small, which is very good, which means that for this particular rocket we can in fact allow the booster to remain in the atmosphere and it won't get destroyed, which is very cool, which enables us to reduce the cost of our mission to an absolute minimum by having an absolutely minimally sized booster, which is very useful when you're trying to do missions which are efficient. And here I am, I'm going to show you how I was able to get to Duna with a rocket which has basically nowhere near enough delta V, or only, it basically has the exact amount of delta V required to get into an encounter with Duna. And because I launched a Duna transfer window, I was in fact able to just get a random Duna encounter directly off the bat, However, it was actually going to cost us more delta V than I had the ability to expend. However, I noticed that my encounter did go just a little bit past the orbital height of Duna around the Sun, so I in fact spent the next few minutes here, as I'm showing you here, lowering my orbital height of my burn so that it hits just to the edge of Duna's burn, so sphere of influence during the burn, and brings us into an encounter, which is basically how I was able to completely minimize the expenditure and get our payload to the flyby it was required to get to for an absolutely minimum cost. And yes, we are making an insanely large amount of profit by doing this mission, because we're offered tens of thousands to just to basically fund the mission, as well as like 100,000 on the successful missions, and we are spending we're spending 5,000 funds to do this mission entirely, so it's definitely well worth it. And if you're short on funds, or if you are trying to save up for something bigger, which you won't necessarily receive a mission for, like colonizing a planet or setting up a refueling base or whatever, then a mission like this is a great way to help you accumulate funds in order for you to be able to fund such a mission. As you can see here, I'm in fact forcing my encounter with Duna by reducing my the amount of prograde I'm burning by hitting the retrograde marker. However, that brings us off course for our Duna encounter. However, I am in fact able to then move my burn around Kerbin, which will then in fact alter where it ends up in relation to Duna. So by launching a transfer window and by increasing my orbital height so it just skims that of Duna, and also by being able to alter where it goes around Kerbin, I am in fact able to perform this mission with a very minimalistic craft. Now, I did experiment with some variants of this, and I did have one that could actually make it all the way to orbit of Duna by basically changing the satellite, so instead of being just the entire upper stage was separate to the satellite, and the satellite instead had a very small field reserve and engine, basically an ant engine with a single Oscar B tank attached to it, and that would have then provided me enough delta V to be able to do mid-course corrections, probably ending up with an aero brake around Duna, followed by a short circularization burn to put us into orbit of Duna. However, this mission does not require an orbit, it simply requires a flyby to gather some data. So as a result, that is why I chose to not include that upper stage, include an engine, make the satellite and the upper stage separate. So yes, that was definitely one idea I tried experimenting with, and perhaps if you wanted to send this probe to orbit for some reason, then I would suggest doing that with this craft. It can definitely do it, and it will cost you almost no funds. and in a career mode save, that's definitely what you want to do. But anyway, that's what I had to do. So as you can see, we have now created, well, gotten ourselves on a Duna encounter. So now we will in fact just go ahead and time warp ourselves into Duna's sphere of influence, and that will mean that we have successfully completed the mission. And yes, I am rather proud of this mission, just simply because it did take a lot of planning, and it was rather difficult to make happen, just simply because of how precise that maneuver node had to be. That brought us to Duna with, yes, with a very, very minimal amount of spare delta V. So now that we are in Duna's sphere of influence, as you can see, I have opened up the mission thing, and we have a second mission there for Duna, which is to in fact go to its sphere of influence. Sorry, go to orbit of it and return. That is because I forgot to accept the mission, went to orbit, and then I accepted it. I saw that mission was there, so I figured I might as well accept it, and that is in fact what the next mission will be. So if you would like to see my next mission, where I in fact head all the way to Duna orbit and then return for as little funds as possible, then please do subscribe to keep on seeing more content. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. On the screen there will in fact be some links to either subscribe to me, and that would very much be appreciated, or you can watch some of my other content through the other links which are appearing on screen. Other than that, thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a good day.